I have a feeling that we have a few questions out here tonight, so let me just start off with just a couple of my own because I may not get a chance to again. What's it like, I guess you get asked this a lot, what's it like to work with your brother?
Well, it's like an old marriage. You know, we've been working professionally together for 31 years. I had my 51st birthday yesterday, so I've known him for, thank you. So I've known him for 51 years. But I like to say it's like an old marriage, yeah. Exactly like old marriage. A lot of fighting and no sex.
Tom, a lot of people really say that's the magic that the two of you have.
The sex part?
Yes. Is the fact that it's family. Is that how you feel about it?
I think it's very important that we're family. I was kind of cringing at some of these things I was seeing here.
They weren't.
Well, retrospective, we never thought that we'd be working for 30 years and have so much of our material and things down and on video to grasp and look back at, and we can see our growth as individuals and also as performers. And the later things I think are much cleaner in performance-wise, but to have a brother when we were thrown off the air, it was family. It was very important to have his support, and he always gave me the support, and we didn't feel like we were exiled because we were with each other. And
I think that working together, the brother, people, first of all, really they related to Tommy's vulnerability, his childlike look and honesty that he would portray when he would, you know, like we're doing that little, I talk to the trees. I mean, that's just, you know, that's terrific stuff, I think. It's not complicated, it's not sophisticated, but you actually believe this guy here. And you empathize. Grandmothers wanted to, oh, this is my little grandchild. Women want to mother him. And then there was, but if he was alone doing that, it could get a little old. So there's the bad guy, you know, who's always pushing him. So, and we were brothers. We couldn't get divorced. People could relate to the sibling. Almost everybody could relate to a mom like you best thought. And you know, we don't do that line any longer, but it's implicit. When you see the Smothers Brothers, you think it in the back of your mind. And that's that natural bantering we have. And I tell you quite honestly, I got a little uncomfortable during the Sonny and Cher show because it was husband and wife arguing, and that always made me uncomfortable. But siblings are supposed to have that good, healthy rivalry.
You call it the Cain and Abel. We're the Cain and Abel comedy.
I hope we end up a lot better than they.
How did the Smothers Brothers get started?
It was mostly music. Music was the essence of our relationship, and the comedy was incidental. Was not intended to be the forefront of our career. Fortunately, I didn't know it in the time. I had the disability, which is now quite trendy to have, which is they say
Dyslexia.
Dyslexia.
It's hard for him to say is disability.
Dyslexic. And so I had learning. I didn't know that I had a short. The pattern of my speech was because I had dyslexia, and I didn't find out until I was 32 years old. So it worked for me. I'm not articulate, and
you are at times. Sometimes it just comes right out.
But not enough to count on.
No. he thought about being air traffic controller, but
so in the process, the comedy, I would talk. I would like to talk to people, and I found I could make these mistakes just about without even trying, and people did laugh, and I did find I could repeat it or try to reach these numbers. And with my brother now fully developed as a straight man, and I mean this facetiously, that a straight man is the drummer, the rhythm. And the first 10 years of the career was based on the uniqueness and primarily me stumbling through these things. The second 10 years was really dicky, a little out of controversy. I helped the Smothers Brothers career. And this last 10 years now are really the essence of my brother coming to full fruition as a straight man. And it's the power and the balance, which is Laurel and Hardy. Oliver Hardy always did all the talking. If you're very unaware of Bud Abbott, did most of the talking, most of the exploratory and explanatory things, and that's the rhythm we've now come to in our adulthood, in our comedy, and it's the strongest we've ever been, we feel, right now.
But looking back on it, we were sort of unconscious. We just sort of did what felt right on stage. and it came out, and if the people laughed at what we said, and they came from the basis of being brothers. Like the Mom Liked You Best line happened in 1961 in St. Louis, Missouri. We were working with Barbra Streisand, a new discovery from Jack, was called the Jack Barr Discoveries. Anyway, she was opening the show for us. She doesn't do it any longer. And Tommy did almost all the talking. We didn't know how to structure it. We had it backwards. He was doing all the rap there, except I would just yell at him and say, I'd get mad at him and say, you're not worthy enough to be a brother, blah, blah, you're stupid, you're rotten, you're everything. And he would sometimes hide from the audience a little bit and say, more, and try to get the audience almost to boo me. And I'd run out of things to say, how bad he was as an individual, as a human being. And then it just popped into his mind, oh yeah, well, Mom liked you best, which was the final insult for him. And it just came off
It's the most quotable line the Smothers Brothers
Yeah,
have
we're
ever
very
done.
quotable. Mom liked you best.
People haven't...
Oh yeah is even bigger.
There's an essence of what the Smothers Brothers and who they are. We don't quote, we say, hey, we remember the Smothers Brothers in the 60s. They were against the war. They're for some progressive and positive humanistic things in their programming and what they tried to do. But very seldom are we quoted, and Mom Liked You Best is the most powerful thing we've ever said, the quotable thing.
The thing that we sometimes lose track of, and I think the most important thing for the longevity or the impact of whatever we have made on television wasn't the Smothers Brothers performers, and I keep forgetting this too, is Tommy's ability as not in title on the screen, but it was his taste, his, and it was a well done show. The young writers, if you saw some of them, Alex Gottlieb, Steve Martin, Rob Reiner was a writer on their show. It was and we were great at presenting other talented people. You surround yourself with great writing and talented people.
Before we had our own series, we got to work. We got to work with a series of people that are no longer with us. It's really profound. If we took the people who appeared on our show, from Little Bankhead and Betty Davis and
Kate Smith was great to work.
Kate Smith and Benny and Burns and Jackie Leonard and.
What was it like to work with Benny?
Benny was wonderful. There was one piece of material where we waited. Our comedy has been basically timing, not content, but timing's been our gift, our unique gift. And I had to have, Benny and I just.
Jack said something or something, and Tommy just looked at him, and Benny's thing, then he goes away. And when he turned back, Tommy was still staring at him. So then Jack turned away again, and he'd never hurried. It was right on his tempo. Came back, Tommy was finally had to do
out of deference, we had to do the next line.
Both George Burns and Jack Benny, they're more wonderful than you would ever hope them to be. They're very normal, considerate with their talent, considerate of other performers, and we're very
gracious to have us on their show. And we reversed. We keep forgetting that was our first time. We're kind of hot, and that was a new and unique, like the Wright brothers. Their playing will always be remembered. The Wright brothers. Their playing wasn't really that good.
The Sibling.
Since our show was kind of a platform for the anti-war movement at that time, or at least it reflected that viewpoint. I was invited to the Bed-In for Peace with Lennon and Yoko Ono in Montreal, so I went up there, and I was one of a lot of characters up there, and I was promoting something. I was trying to get back on television, doing something. I said, here's people with the same vision, same motivation. And we started playing. He said, will you do the song, Give Peace a Chance? So I had a guitar, and I was playing, and he's playing in key of C, I think, or some simple key like that. So I started playing a next inversion up, and I was doing some passing chords, and I was going to shut up. And he says, hey, Tom, he stopped the whole thing. Mike says, stop that. He says, you got to play exactly like me, exactly the same way. I don't want to hear that. I'm very embarrassed.
Play it simple.
Play it simple. Play it exactly the same. I said, it's the same thing. He said, that's what I wanted. So two guys, I always thought I was stretching.
Did you meet all four of the Beatles?
Pardon?
Did you get to meet all four of the Beatles?
Yes.
You met Paul McCartney too?
Yes, all of them.
And they performed individually on the show.
George Harrison performed individually on the show. We presented also their their tapes are when they went to the United States. They gave us their version.
Hey Jude was debuted on the Smothers Brothers show.
We didn't really hang out a lot. I got to I hung out with them enough that I was part of that the quote hip Americans at that time when that thing was going on. So I was
you got to remember that Robin Williams says if you could remember the '60s, you weren't there. I remember them.
Do you all ever perform individually? I mean, have you? I mean, I'm sure you have, but do you enjoy it more or less? Or?
We, in 1970s, sometimes in the 70s, we went out and I went out we burned the red jackets symbolically, and we weren't going to do it anymore. It wasn't any fun, and we always made a commitment to ourselves. If our performance was not fun anymore for us, we wouldn't do it. So I went out and did theater and did some films, and we came to the conclusion that we are much better together, and we'll always be known as the Smothers Brothers. We held that in our private hearts of hearts that there was some special thing that we can each do as individuals that would be superior.
And that mentality really worked for us. Tommy went into theater. I started a winery called Smothers Brothers Winery. And then a year later I went into dinner theater. Then we got to do the Broadway play I Love My Wife at the Ethel Barrymore 11 years ago. And that got us on, and it was such a thrill to be able to work Broadway and have the show reviewed wonderfully. And that gave us some new skills, so when we went back into the nightclub field, we were better. And we were refreshed, and we like doing what we're doing now. But so many performers, they'll start walking through their performances, and I think it's a cheat to their fans and a cheat to them. You take it over.
Go ahead. You point better than I can. That's the only thing. Go ahead.
Are there I'm sorry.
No, we'll take this gentleman right here, and we'll take you next. All right. Right here, this gentleman.
Are there any plans to release the show on cassette or anything in the future?
Well, we've looked at all the old shows, and there's been some talk about putting them in cassette or editing them down and to take the classic rock. Was the only place where that music, the 60s music, was being done live. And we looked at the shows in totality, and the emotionalism, they don't hold up. I would hate to disappoint the people who hold that time and precious.
We'd have to edit them down and manipulate the shape.
But sometimes they go on. They're long. Our sense of space and time has changed so much, and we have more of a Reader's Digest mentality, and they're hard to kind of hang on to these things unless you're a real student of early television. Sometimes
if you look at it as history, it's interesting, but as television moves so much quicker now.
It would be interesting to release some of these in sets of 4 or 5 during particularly the 68, 69 season, including their commercials, which give a sense of space and time to them. With 3 or 4 at a time might be interesting.